Hello my fiery friends, the Infernoman here with our latest gameplay and exhibition video to show you. In this series, we highlight a random deck on MTG Arena, and it can range from a spicy homebrew to a tier 1 meta deck that's hot on ranked. And if you do like these videos and anything I do, all I ask for you is to give a like on this video and subscribe to the channel so you can enjoy everything from my gameplay, deck techs, booster pack openings, and so much more. If you do like the deck, I will leave a link in the details below so you can give it a spin on Arena for yourself. Keep in mind that these videos will be pure gameplay, no commentary style, so you can enjoy the game, and if you want to, you can see my final thoughts on this deck at the end of the match. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And there you have it, everybody. That was our dungeon deck. So my only thoughts that I really have on this is you've kind of noticed I honestly was able to pull this off on a budget. I don't know how I was able to, but it actually is doable, mostly because dungeons tends to be a little bit on the slower side. But as you saw, once you start snowballing and getting into your little dungeon rooms to get more value out of your cards, it gets extremely powerful. The downside, however, is you kind of saw and I guess I don't really want to say this, but since we had some alchemy buffs to these cards, it really did make a difference in helping us out. But if you do want to put this together in paper, as you saw at the beginning of the video, there is a version you can do of this. However, I tried to tweak this to see if we can make it playable in Explorer, and the biggest card that holds it all together is Soul Herder, which is only available in Historic, and if you were to play this in paper, you only technically could play this in Modern, which, as you kind of figured, you'll get destroyed in Modern. Still, that's not to say this deck is bad. For arena purposes, it's actually pretty fun once you see it go off. But the one thing that you want to be cautioned on is if you do play this is we're pretty much weak to wraths. Anything that wraths the board makes it hard for us to come back. However, we surprisingly are versatile to spot removal, mostly because we have cards like Fate's Reversal, we have Negates to protect ourselves, we have Teferi's Time Twist. Those help us out a lot. Also, it is doable to do this deck in 60 cards, but because I wanted the extra room to bring in a little bit more support, that's why I had to pull in Yorion. But still, it is completely possible to put this all together for a fairly low amount of wild cards. As far as your sideboard, you're going to be a bit more ambiguous with this. I didn't really get a chance to mess with it too much, but I've mostly just picked out stuff that we have trouble dealing with in the main board. So Fractures, of course, to deal with any artifacts, enchantments, or planeswalkers, we can't just take out. Deafening Silence to slow down the control decks. Duress is also for those control decks. Some Dovin's Vetoes to throw in to support the negates. And if you're trying to survive those wraths, bring in your Make a Stance if you have to. If you do want to go non-budget with this, and if you have the wild cards for it, or if you already have these cards available, definitely just upgrade the mana base. That's really all you need to do to make this actually pretty consistent and actually a lot more powerful. Honestly though, if you do want to actually give this all a try, a couple other things also I want to give you a little bit tips on. Panharmonicon specifically, and Hama Pashar. These cards specifically do some pretty different triggers, but they're still very powerful. She allows us, of course, to trigger off an additional time a dungeon room. So what that means is, if you kind of saw, we were able to get 2 triggers off of the same dungeon room. However, if you play Panharmonicon, the only difference with that trigger is you get to trigger off and go into a dungeon room 2 different times. To put this another way, Panharmonicon will let you advance twice, Hama will let you trigger twice on the same room. If you put them down together, you theoretically can get 4 triggers off, which is an insane amount of value. Don't be afraid also to pull in cards like your Ravenous Chupacabra if you have to sacrifice going into a dungeon room for just a moment just to pick off a couple of extra critters. Don't also forget that Thassa's Deep Dwelling also has that 4 mana ability to tap another target creature to get it out of the way of combat if we absolutely have to, and also it's not restricted by sorcery speed. My only other final thought that I just want to give you is, yes, this is definitely as jank as can get when it comes to our decks, but hey, that's why we're all here playing this kind of stuff. However, if you are a fan of dungeon crawling, and if you are a fan of what we had in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, and if of course you do have the cards already available, give this deck a try. I actually had a lot of fun playing with it. Don't expect to get too many wins off of it, but it is so satisfying when this deck goes off. Either way, if you play it, I'm sure you will not be disappointed. That's all I have for you today. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and just remember that no matter what you do play in the game of life, always be sure to burn bright. Later!